Hello class, welcome to my Module 4 video discussion. So before I get into these questions, I first gotta say, I had a lot of trouble understanding this chapter. This chapter was really confusing for me. I tried my best to understand it, and I just don't understand what the whole chapter talked about. It was really confusing. So I'm sorry if this video comes out really boring, and it's probably going to end up being really short. At least I'm guessing. So here we go. Question 1. Consider current organizations right now. Given the state of organizations as you understand them, what are the 3 most pressing questions or problems facing organizations? How do the 4 approaches to theorizing organizational issues help us frame how we answer these questions? What other issues interact with, compound, complicate, or limit the kinds of answers we are likely to receive? Be sure you cite your text as you respond. Okay, I don't know what questions I'm supposed to talk about, like the 3 most pressing questions that organizations face, but because I couldn't really find that in the text. I mean, if I were to take a guess, I think it's asking me about the 3 decision theories. So I will talk about that, starting with ontology. This is a belief which how we think about the nature of being. So a quote to back me up from page 145. Do we think of an organization as having its own existence and own behaviors that continue independently of the various managers and employees who come and go over time? Yeah, that was a quote for ontology. It's like a question. I guess that's the questions I'm supposed to find. The next theory is the epistemology. This is a belief where our philosophy of how things come to be known. Here is a quote from page 145. Do we believe that knowledge about an organization is attained by observing collective actions and measuring aggregate behaviors? And the third theory, axiology. It is a belief of us believing what is worth knowing. As the chapter states on page 145, many social scientists believe that only empirical evidence, or what can be directly and partially observed and measured, is worth knowing. Okay, so I got the 3 questions down. There's the next part for question 1. How do the 4 approaches to theorizing organizational issues help us frame how we answer these questions? Okay. So the 4 approaches, the first one is the positive approach, and it's when you need to make a decision which best fits the situation. On page 150, a quote, Lex Donaldson succinctly captured this perspective by suggesting that in any situation, to attain the best outcome, the decision makers must choose a structure that best fits the situation, with ideas of the decision makers. The second approach, which is the interpretive approach, and it's a belief where people drive what their organizations do and what their organizations are. I personally don't really agree with this approach because, let's say, for example, I want to create a company which produces computer processors. I'm going to hire people which know how to design computer hardware. I'm the one which decides the goals for the organizations, not the people. Yes, the third approach, the postmodern approach. This is a belief which I don't really understand this definition, honestly, so I'm just going to read the book's definition on page 158. Many critical theorists hold that historical and cultural forces produce power structures with fixed existences. Postmodern theorists of organizational communication take a different view. And the last approach, which is the combining approaches. I also did not understand this term, so because the chapter doesn't really give a good definition, so I'm just gonna read to you. I mean, what I took out of this, from what it sounds, I guess, is it combines all the other approaches that were mentioned. That's basically what I got out from it. So all these approaches I talked about are from pages 149 to 162. Next question, which is the third, I think. Yes, the third. Discuss your personal ontology, how things exist, epistemology, and axiology. Apply it to an organizational communication question you are or have struggled with now or in the past. Explain each of the concepts as they relate to how you understand and attempt to frame your question. Be sure to use your text to justify your response. I can't really apply my organizational question because I barely understand this chapter. And I already explained each concept of like epistemology, axiology, and ontology. But now I'm actually lost about the three problems that organizations face, which I was supposed to talk about in the previous question. I thought I was talking about these three things. Whatever, I'm just going to move on to the next question. In what ways do sense making and structuration help you understand problems faced in modern organizations? Pick an example. You can use one found in recent media if you prefer, and apply these concepts as discussed in the text to the problem. Using them, explain the problem and concepts, of course, cite the text to support your thoughts. Okay, this is actually question 3. The other one was number 2. I feel like I'm not the only one which feels confused about this entire chapter, but if I am the only one then that doesn't understand this, then I guess something is wrong with me. So I can't really answer this question. The only thing I could possibly do is define structuration, which I also did not understand the chapter's explanation of structuration theory, so I'll just read the definition given in page 186. Structuration theory: a system is comprised not of parts, such as an organization's various departments, but of human practices. So I guess it's about like the outcome of human actions. Okay, question 4. Using the material from chapter 4, break down the video lecture you watched. How do the ideas presented reflect or fit into this week's materials? What is Bob's ontological, epistemological, and axiological perspective? Why do you believe that to be the case? What other concepts from the chapter can you use to help you interpret his lecture? Okay, this question's actually kind of bothering me because the video is like completely irrelevant to this chapter. Maybe it's because I only maybe it's because I only watched 20 minutes of the video. But the reason why I only watched 20 minutes is because within that 20 minutes, the guy talked about nothing about what this chapter was talking about. He talked about like how managers and leaders need to, like, how to be a good manager and leader, and why like managers get grumpy and why they're bad, why managers are bad. But that's not what the texts talk about. I did not understand almost anything in this textbook. I actually understood the video much more than the textbook, so I didn't learn anything from this chapter. I thought the video was more useful. But yeah, I'll be looking forward for Wednesday, so hopefully I could clear things up that I didn't understand from this chapter. And that is all for my video, guys. See you Wednesday.